In this video we're going to look at how to make this cookie. It's wafer paper, just slightly elevated from the background, creating a different look. These might be great for a bridal shower or an actual wedding. You could use the wedding colors right there. So here Martha Stewart has come out with a new molds for this drawing clay product she has in her card making, scrapbooking department. So I picked it up for cookies. I've tried to use it in a few different ways, and I found that it works best if you roll a little bead, a little pea-size amount of fondant or gum paste. I think that you'd need to mix this half-half with the gum paste. It's a slightly finicky mold, and so if you're working in fresh fondant, it'll be very sticky, and you really can't put a lot of cornstarch on this mold or you're going to lose the detail in it. And so once you have your little amount of fondant or gum paste, you can push it in. And the other thing that's happening, if you're pushing off the excess like I've shown in another video, it'll warp again the design. So try to get the exact amount and just push it in, and then you can, since it's pliable, you can just coax it out and then leave it dry on this drying rack and make up a bunch of them, and then we'll either spray them with the airbrush or with some luster dust. I try to make my things in white. I think I've said this before, so that if I have leftovers, if I make a bunch, I can use it for different orders. If I'm making these in pink and then I get a more masculine order, they obviously don't work, but if I have them in white, I can color them whatever color I like. Here are some squares. These are let's get my trusty quilting ruler. So 3 inches square, just a little bit less, and I ice them a little over ½ an inch away from the edge, and I have here 2 little buttons that will be the accent to these cookies. And so the reason you could certainly color your icing and then also with the same color your buttons. I want them to match. I'm going to dust them now with the airbrush in pink. So I'm just going to move the buttons away a little bit. I want the buttons to match the cookie over here. So try not to get the airbrush on the cookie area. It's not a big deal if you do, but we're looking to color here. And there we go. Today I'm working with wafer paper. As you can see, it's very thin. There is no backing. This is not a frosting sheet. It is a completely different product. It stands up. As you can see here, it doesn't flop over, whereas the frosting sheet doesn't have any backbone. It just kind of is like a wet noodle. This is actual, holds like a piece of, paper. And so what I'm going to be doing with this paper right now is I'm going to be dusting it with some pearl. I want some shine on it. So just a light dusting. You don't want to over wet it. So before we do anything to it, I want to do this step so that it has time to dry, and then I'll be able to handle it. And I can see it kind of bumping up due to the moisture, so it's important you do this step before you get it on the cookie. Once the wafer paper is dry with the airbrush, you're going to use regular scissors and cut it in 2-inch squares. So this is the size of a piece of paper, so let me measure. It is 8.5 by 11. It is exactly the same size as a piece of regular paper. So with your ruler, cut this up like in 2-inch squares. Now I have a Martha Stewart all over punch. I'm going to link you to a scrapbooking video that I did not make, but it shows you how to use this punch. Okay? So it'll explain in that video why it's all marked up. I marked mine up so I could see the pattern. So I'm stacking 2 wafer papers together. They're cut in 2-inch squares, and I can cut 2 at a time. It punches right through, no problem. So place that on the punch, and you can see this plate here is about 2 inches as well, so it allows you to line up. And so you push from the top, and there's, you're going to have all these little bits that come off, and there we go. There is the punched out wafer. And now you go through them all. You can do this step before you're actually decorating the cookies. You can just put them actually in a book so that they stay flat. Should you want to make larger cookies, so this was the small one. I told you it was a 2-inch square. This square here is 3.5 inches, and I fit 4 of the punches, and it creates a pattern in the middle. It'll make a rather large cookie, but if you're working on a wedding favor, this would be very pretty. So to decorate these cookies, you're going to need that 2-inch square of wafer paper, the cookie that I colored, and this is an interesting thing. I really don't know if you can get this with the camera, but these were both originally white, airbrushed in exactly the same purple, and look at the difference in color. It's shocking to me. So this is royal icing, and that is fondant, and they came out completely different. The purple on the royal icing really is washed out, not as vibrant as the purple on this little piece of fondant. So little tidbit. Purple is difficult color, as we all know, to work with. So now I've got my tip in here. I have a 61, and it's about the width that I left uniced on the cookie. And so I'm starting here, and I've got the narrow edge out, and the curve is upwards. So I'm just creating a ruffle around the cookie. On the corners it's a little trickier. You want to keep your width all the way around of the white icing. There we go. There we go. Now the corner again, turn it. Get your nice ruffle going. Alright, so that seam, that's where the button's going to go, so don't worry about it. I don't know if you guys have a boo-boo stick. You can get that at Copper Gifts. And so now, while the icing is wet, you line up your wafer paper onto the ruffle. So it's important to center it and gently press it in around the edges. So we don't want the wafer paper to be pressed up against the purple color. What we're doing is we're creating like a window with the color behind slightly peeking through. Now the wafer paper is somewhat translucent, so you do get a bit of the purple, you know, here. So it's up to you. This is a demo cookie. I'm working in purple, but obviously, so here I've got a little bit of the icing that got in front of my window here. I'm just with my boo-boo stick moving it, and there we go. So try to maintain a little bit of space between the wafer paper and the actual icing in the back. So now just do a little drop of icing, and then you can add your little button there for another little detail. These cookies are somewhat fragile for both the ruffle here and this wafer paper is fragile. You might want to package these either in a cello box or carefully in the cello bags, but you know, watch out if you stack them, the wafer paper will rip. So I'm going to do it one more time to show you. So I'm starting here. You could do metallic like gold peeking through. That would be really pretty. I was trying to think of colors that you guys could see well on camera. There. And now the seam. Alright. Just gently place this on the icing. And you can see through it to see if you're lined up. And you can use the other side of your boo-boo stick that's kind of square and just go around pressing it into the icing. And this will cement it into place. At the same time, create enough of a little backing to elevate it from that purple color. And there we go. And right here, a little extra drop of icing. And that little button. And there we go, some really cute cookies. You could tie these in with a purple cookie, a completely purple cookie, a flower, something like that. You could use that punch as well as a stencil, cut it with paper and airbrush it instead. I think these are really pretty.